Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining me today on Women to Women Wednesdays. Today I'm super excited to have Anjee Solanki, the National Director of Retail in the United States. That is a very big role, a huge undertaking, and she's killing it in this industry. What she's done is that she's brought 30 years of focused retail real estate experience to Colliers International. She provides strategic retail advisory services to enhance value for her clients. And she was nominated by the registry and crew under Elevate 2019, honoring women in leadership in commercial real estate, and is also a fellow Forbes Real Estate Council member. And it's so nice to be running with the players in this arena. So welcome, Anjee.
Thank you so much, Pam. Thanks for having me.
And for those of you who are just tuning into us right now, we are going to be talking about Anjee's background, how she got into commercial real estate. And so we're going to start with our first question. If you met someone who's just starting off, where would you recommend people start to climb their way up into your role?
Well, I mean, it's a great question. I actually fell into it myself. I had no idea I would get into commercial real estate. I actually graduated with my finance degree. And so for me, it was a great journey. So what I would recommend is, especially when you're getting into the industry new, is to really explore what interests you and really ties well with your own personal strengths. And so what I mean by that is when I got into the business, I really started from ground zero. So I was assisting a retail leasing team. I was assisting a construction management team. I moved into property management and then asset management and really started to build my, repertoire of different understandings of how retail is looked at from a different point of view. I think having that, retail was my specialty, but having that visibility into those different disciplines allowed me to take a real holistic approach. And so that's how I handle the business today holistically and with an advisory kind of mindset.
And I love that you chose to share the word holistically. And I think that encompasses you right there because you took kind of like a sampling of every sort of little department, right? To kind of get a flavor and a taste to see how much you liked it. And that's kind of what culminated together to bring you up into this role as the national director. Is that
Thank you.
correct?
Yep, it sure is. I mean, it's like a recipe, right? Just take a little bit of all the different ingredients, but you don't have to stay true to that recipe. You can modify that recipe that fits your taste. So think of it in that, that analogy, I guess.
So this is for the college students out there. Often the questions that they come up with are, okay, they're about to graduate or have graduated already. Maybe they have a degree in business or a degree in real estate or finance. Where do you recommend they kind of go into first?
It's a great question. It's really dependent upon, I actually think business, because when you're learning and getting experience in the real world, it's very different when you're in college or when you just came out of college. So I actually believe you learn so much when you're surrounded by not only your peers, but other mentors and other leaders where you can actually get real hands-on experience. I have to say, I've learned so much through those experiences. So there's the textbook experience, but there's the real hands-on, and you just got to get out there and be hungry, I guess, is another way to look at it, right? So if you have this real passion or curiosity, as I do and still do with as it relates to retail, just dive right in. I mean, I started to, in my younger years, I said, look, if I'm going to really understand retail, there's definitely the landlord side of the business, but there's the retailer and the consumer side of the business. So I started to, put my business hat on and I would go secret shop, stores and retailers. I would walk into stores and I would just start to, ask questions. Why did you merchandise it this way? Why do you have these different SKUs? And so on and so forth. How did you get into the business with some of the small business owners? And I continue to have those bank of questions, as I call it, whether it's, a small business owner, a mid-tier, or even a national. So I continue to use that as my kind of part of my fundamentals when I'm really, having these conversations with different clients.
When did you decide that this was right for you? Because we all kind of have a why of why we do certain things, right? When was that moment, that aha moment of like, this is it for me, and I'm going to take it and just run with it and be hungry and continue to be hungry?
Yeah, continue. Yeah, we're on this kind of food theme, which is kind of cool. um, so I would say I actually when I was so business is in my blood. I think is the best way. It's in my DNA. I grew up with family and parents that are also very business minded. So when my parents came from East Africa, I was 3 years old. We lived in Southern California in the Valley. I was a Valley girl for a little bit. And, and so, I saw my parents do a variety of things. One, they had to acclimate. Two, they had to, go back to school and learn or get recertified, etc. But at the same time, they actually were running their own businesses. So they decided, hey, we're here, we're going to make the best of this. So, although my dad was working in the airlines as an engineer, my mom, and my father started to buy two or three businesses. And so I'm watching all of this. This is where it was just me. I had no, sibling at that time. So I was just like, wow, if my parents can do this, I'm going to do it. And so I just had that mindset. So I think that helped and really pushed me through. And so, like at the age of, I think I was 5 or 6, my dad's friend came over, and it's a quick story because I want to be mindful of time. But my dad's friend came over. My parents had a drive-through dairy, and he popped up, opened the trunk, and I was like, "Wow, what are you doing with all these paperback books?" And he said, "Oh, I'm just taking it to the library because I'm going to donate." But I said, "You have hundreds of these books. Can I have at least 50 of these books?" And he's like, "Sure." He goes, "What are you going to do with them?" I said, "You'll see." And I took 50 of the books. My dad was like, okay, whatever. And I made a little sign, and it was a drive-through dairy. So as people were driving through, buying milk and eggs, etc., I had my little sign there, and I guess they thought, well, she's a cute little kid. We'll just give her 25 cents for a book. So I started selling books.
Wow, your first business right there. So smart.
And I just loved it. And I think it's also because I'm a people person. I have a lot of curiosity. I have this business kind of in my DNA. And so I never gave up. And so I actually, well, when I was, I think I was 17 or I think it was 18. I said my mom, got into real estate just like, you did, at a young age. And my mom said, I'm just going to start investing in houses as a rental property. So she did. And I said, well, Mom, I'll go get my broker's license and then we can just partner together. And she's like, yeah, you can get the commission. I can take some of that commission, put it back in the house, etc. So that's what we did. And so at 18, I was, just I graduated early. I was in college. I got my broker's license, and during college, I decided to sell residential houses on the weekends.
What would be your top recommended books for ladies and men wanting to get into this area?
Yeah, there's a book, and I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. I'll have to email it to you, but there's a gentleman that's been around for quite a while, and he actually spoke about retail as a third place. And so, and he's written, maybe about 3 or 4 books. It's what I love about his writing style is that when you're reading it in the moment, it almost seems futuristic, but then when you stop and pause, it actually there's a thread, and that thread really mirrors kind of we've gone through, and I don't think this has changed whether it's our industry or any industry, but it shows how again, it goes back to consumers. It shows how retailers shift consumer behaviors. Those behaviors and mindsets actually become the norm, not a trend. And then retailers have to quickly pivot, those that didn't originally, to these, call it new behaviors, that are becoming more the norm. And then the retailers come back again and they say, oh, we got to mix things up and we need to change things. And then they change things yet again. And I'll give you an example. A great example that I see is we start to think about our retailers who are value oriented, right? So you see the Best Buys, the Home Goods, etc. And I would also put in Banana Republic into that mix. And what I mean by that is the Banana Republic was never what I would call value oriented, right? They were an elevated brand, selling wares and looks that were on trend for men and women. But one thing they did, which I was really surprised by, this would have been maybe about 4 or 5 years ago. And so I don't know if you've noticed this, but what I noticed is that I felt like almost every day they had a sale. So, oh, it was 30%, then it was 40%, then it was 50%. And so what it did, it made us as consumers wait until they had a sale to buy. I mean, now it's the norm at Banana Republic. Granted, you can't take COVID into the mix, but they would just wait. Well, when will they have a sale? And they put their signs right out in front of their storefront, and so they created that mindset. And so now you have this consumer psychologically looking at when will the next discount hit, and then I'm going to go and buy. Now, of course, I mean, it's not everyone's going to wait until then, but I think it's the majority. And so we've created consumer that's looking for these discounts. So that's a great story I wanted to share.
That's very neat what you just
Yeah.
shared. Any other books that come to mind?
I mean, the other one that I really love, so I enjoy personally doing yoga. It's very calming and quieting. And so many years ago, I found an author. Her name is Pema Chodron, Chodron. And what I love about her books, she has several. There's one that's really great that I think it's uh, called Being either uncertain or being in an uncomfortable place, but it's just little snippets. And so she's a U.S. born female, and she decided to get into this whole new world of religion. And what I love about it, she's very transparent. So she'll say, I was trying to figure this out. Like I couldn't understand what they were talking about when she was going through really understanding the whole mindset of being a mom. And so she shares that journey, and she shares like her frustrations and her range of emotions, so you really connect with her. And it's easy bite size information. And also what I like about it is the book, you can open that book at any chapter in your life. So you
Oh,
can read it 5 years ago and you read it today, you may be in a completely different place in your life, whether that's work or personal, and you can still pick that book and it resonates with you in a different way.
oh, that's beautifully said. Speaking of, what are some strategies that you use to grow your network as you meet people and create that rapport and that relationship?
It is really difficult, Pam. I have to say, it's interesting because I feel as though the more visible you are internally and externally, the more people will start to reach out, and so it does create a bit of a challenge. I'll be very honest with you that. I mean, I always respond to everybody because that's something that's really important to me. I'm a big believer if I can help
Me
someone,
too.
yeah, in any way, shape, or form. Not too much financially, but if I can help as best I can, I will do my best to do that. And so, you meet so many wonderful people along the way. And I think social media has just heightened that. And so, whether it's through blogs or posts that I put on social channels or reports that I co-author, or these speaking engagements, you start to meet a lot of people. And I think the hardest thing for me is trying to stay in touch with those individuals the best I can. And so it's very difficult. There isn't an easy answer. You're always going to connect with certain people, and that connection is lifelong. I would say one piece of advice is, and this is for everybody, including myself. If you make connections and you house it however you house it and manage that information, go back every 3 to 6 months, and just go through that list and go, oh my goodness, I need to reach back out to, to Sherry, or to Karen, or whoever those individuals are, or Dan, that you've met along the way. And because I have to say, when you do reach out, they will respond, and they'll respond with open arms. And if they don't, that's okay too. You made that effort. And I think that is powerful enough. And I think that's the thing. Like, we create our own headlines and our own fears, and it all lives in here. And so, if you are concerned, or that kind of thought comes across, you can do one of two things. You can either, or one of three things. You can either say, you know what, wipe it away and just do it. The second is, let me talk through it with some friends to see, maybe I can just, get some feedback. And the third is do nothing. And please don't do nothing.
Yeah, the last step is not a good tip. So I
Right.
agree with you. Well, all right, on to something a little more challenging.
Yeah.
What what was the biggest challenge that you faced in your career journey that you would love to share with us?
I would say there's two. One is, I've been very fortunate to meet some great people along the way, especially in my younger years. And so during my younger years, I would say, because I don't really look at, I was actually surrounded by some wonderful men that were my mentors in my younger years. When I grew up, my parents didn't have a very defined gender role, meaning my dad made breakfast, he would braid my hair in the morning and drop me to school. And my mom was, really kind of that, in charge businesswoman. And so, it was a blurring of the lines. And so I didn't grow up with these, call it societal, um, you know, uh,
Traditional
yeah,
norms, right?
exactly, exactly. And so, because of that, I don't look at people in that way. I just look at people in who they are and the value they bring, etc. So I grew up with a lot of the great male influence. And then along the way, what I started to realize was, which I was really surprised by. I would go to women and say, "Oh my gosh, I'm so impressed. You're in this amazing role. Tell me, how did you get here? What did you do? What did you do differently? Give me some tips." And I almost got like the door closed on me
Oh,
most of the time. Yes. And
wow.
I was realized, like, this is really odd. And so I was talking to a friend about this because I was just kind of perplexed. And she said, Angie, I think the reason why is, if you look at the women that are in these very high powered roles, these are women, that had to really work hard. It was the era of, the 60s, early 70s. They had to work hard. They had to really prove themselves. And by doing such, they may have had just a little bit of that, hesitancy, that they really were still in charge and they had to still keep fighting. And I don't think there was any ill intent or bad intent. And I agree, I don't think so either. And if
Yeah.
we fast forward, today, almost 10 years later, not even 10 years, like if I go back 15 years, I have seen a shift because my new mentors are women, and these women were just wonderful in a way that they didn't say, let me help you. They unknowingly, they were helping me and I didn't even know it. Like, they would invite me to these meetings with all these leaders and say, I remember, Sherry would say, Angie, thanks for being a part of this meeting. I know you've done a lot of homework on this property. Why don't you share? And I was like, what?
Wow. Now that's a great mentor.
Yes. So she didn't tell me she was going to do it because she knew, she trusted me. She had trust I was going to come prepared. She had trust I had knowledge on the subject matter, and that she could just, almost it was like she put me on stage and said, "You're the lead character. Go for it."
So, what are some of the mistakes that you've made that kind of made you think back or reflect back that you're like, I'd love to kind of give that tip to someone who's starting off just like me? What would you warn them? What did you wish you'd done differently?
So it's funny because I shared this tip actually with my nephew who is 16, and I adore him, and he's also very kind of business minded. So the one tip I shared with him, I said, don't become, you're doing so much work learning and being the expert, right? You have so much value. Never let others almost kind of either hold you back, but again, it's not from an intentional perspective. Holding you back meaning that that you could actually be further ahead. So I always think like this. I always say, "Wow, could I have been where I am 5 years ago?" I always think that. And some of my friends say most definitely. And then I look back at what was holding me back. And sometimes I look at what was holding me back was myself. And so I was surrounded by wonderful people. I was surrounded by great experiences and great clients and peers and so on. I mean, I was learning and learning and learning, but I think I kept holding myself back because I felt maybe I wasn't ready. And so when I wasn't ready, I wasn't out there looking for opportunity because opportunity, yes, could knock on your door, but I'm a firm believer you create your own destiny. And so I say to my nephew who's 16, you create your own destiny. The way you're going to create it is being out there, listening, learning, meeting, and then saying, you know what, I want to go try that. And so, I'm not saying accelerate it because, you're just trying to fast forward your life and you want to jump ahead and not have those experiences. I'm not saying that whatsoever because without my experiences, I don't think I would be who I am today or where I
Right.
am today.
Right. So basically, don't let fear stop you, right? If you feel that, hey, I might want to go into that, and you just don't shut yourself out before you've given it a fair shot.
Yeah,
That
explore it. Definitely. I mean, like, I just made a blunder. I wouldn't say it's a blunder, but I just made, uh, a pivot in kind of my own personal life. And I said, well, I want to get into understanding VC and technology from a CRE perspective. And I decided to, invest in a group. And I still believe in it. And I still think there's definitely opportunities, but maybe I jumped ahead a little too fast. So it goes back to you have to have that balance because I'm still learning that whole VC environment. It's not a place that, I've spent the last 30 years. I've spent the last 30 years in CRE. So
right. It's not your expertise, so it's important to kind of just take a step back and take stock too, right? So that's a
exactly.
great tip. You answered a question that I was going to lead into next of what's that kind of tip or advice for just young men and women looking to get started. It's don't be afraid, but also just take inventory and take stock of where you are at. Be realistic, but,
Yes,
but
yes.
don't stop yourself either. So if you want it, go for it. Get all the tools you need, whether it's the mentors or friends or family to support you to get going, right?
Yeah, and also, one thing I have to say, because I've been in the business for 30 years, my one key focus has been retail. And
Hmm.
so what I mean by that, even though it's retail and there's subsections of it or disciplines within it that I explored individually, separately, collectively, etc. I stayed true to that one specialization, which is retail.
Now I just have to ask, what's your best, I guess, what is your most favorite facet in retail? Like, what would you pick that you've had the most fun with?
Oh my gosh. You know what I love? I love taking a retail property. It's like a puzzle. And I like to look at it from, top down and how it's positioned in the marketplace, and then start to peel it back and do deep dives into how each of the categories within the total merchandising mix um, how it's how does it what is its role in the community? Because to me, a project is really based on the community because those shoppers are spending their dollars there. So
Right.
they kind of go outside of that community and go, okay, what are the demographics? Why are they coming here? Because there's that dollar spent, but there's also a psychological aspect to it. And then so, you can't just look at it purely from merchandising mix and what retailer should go where, but also what is that physical environment? Does it resonate with you emotionally when you're walking through the project and you're listening to the sounds, you're smelling the flowers, or you're looking at the seating? Like, I'm very visual. I get very, that's for me, that all that touching, tasting, smelling, the key senses. And when I walk through a project, I really look for those things because to me those are core ingredients. So that's what gets me really jazzed.
So touching all your five senses just to make it a wholesome experience, right? Which leads back to your holistic approach to your business, which is wonderful right there. All right, so I'm going to end the professional talk here on the last question of what are your top 3 business goals that you'd like to nail in the next, I don't know, 6 months to a year or 5 years?
So I stay tried and true in terms of our business philosophy. It's really, how do we act as advisors to our clients? Because, regardless of the pandemic, you have to come with an advisory mindset, and that's where that holistic again comes to it plays a part. Maintaining that advisory mindset, regardless of the client type, is one. I think also be okay to not only share your opinion, that it's a good opinion, but share an opinion if you disagree with your colleagues or your clients, etc. I think it's really critical. And not don't dig your heels in and just be very aggressive about your opinion, but just state it and state why. If you have evidence to support it, wonderful. And then ultimately the team or the group will make their final decision, but at least you feel as though you shared that, even if it's negative. So I think that's an important one, and I also think it's important to collaborate and bring people along with you. So what I mean by that is, if you see someone that's doing a phenomenal job, but maybe they're not reporting directly to you, or vice versa, bring them along in this journey, right? I think if we do not, we're really doing a disservice to our industry and our community. And that's really important. They don't teach that too much, right, in school, unless you're a part of a team. They really don't teach that.
No, that's definitely a life skill. So in summary, it's to grow your kind of like your network of being authentic, being genuine in what you do, because that kind of goes farther and wider, is operating with integrity and then lending a helping hand to those who are, like you said, who may not be your direct reports, but you see them performing, you see them hustling, you see them doing a great job at that too. So
Right.
just kind of going out of your way a little bit to just give them a little nudge up in the ways that they may need help with, right?
Yes,
Well,
definitely.
is this why I chose to interview you? Is because you have a good heart, and also because we're from the same area, so that's kind of cool too.
Exactly.
All right, so on to the fun round. We'll start with your favorite color,
Red.
favorite place
Antarctica.
you've been.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's like the next place I want to go. Favorite movie.
Favorite movie, The Chronicles of Narnia. Love
Favorite music genre.
world music. I love world music.
Favorite author.
Favorite author, I go back to Pema Chodron.
Favorite food.
I love Indian food. Like, I just can't. I'm Indian, of course, but I can't. Just love it. Just love it, love it, love it.
Yum. Favorite drink.
My favorite, by the way.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's pani puri is my favorite.
Hanipuri, what is that?
Oh my gosh, it's so delicious. So it's like, it's Indian street food. It's really, really good.
What
So
is it made of, or like what does it look like?
so it's like little. If you're familiar with like Indian puris,
Mm-hmm.
they're little mini ones, and but they're a little crispier, and so you just pop a little hole and you put in potatoes and lentils and a little bit of yogurt and green chilies and cilantro. But what really makes it is the pani, and pani means water in Indian. And the water is this beautiful mix of tamarind and other spices.
Yum. Okay, we obviously keep talking about food. It's because it's lunchtime, y'all, for those of you listening in. All right, that's great. Favorite drink?
Favorite drink, of course, red wine. I love red wine, Pinot Noir.
Pinot Noir, wonderful.
Or
I'm sorry.
from Oregon.
Oh, okay, great, great. Favorite dessert?
Again, Indian. My favorite dessert is called gulab jamun, and it's a sweet little round like donut. And I just, you can get sick off of them. Trust me, I did. I had, I think, 8, and I was like, whoa, but I love it.
Favorite holiday?
I think honestly, I don't have a favorite holiday, and I'll tell you why. Because I love to travel, and I have no kids. My husband and I, we travel quite a bit. We've been to so many different countries, and the holidays that everyone celebrates is so meaningful. So for me, I don't have a favorite. I just think every holiday for every culture is awesome.
Favorite hobby?
Travel. I have this venturesome spirit and I just can't let it go. And, it is a little tough because we haven't had the ability to travel too much, but we try to take a few road trips here and there throughout the US. So that's been amazing because I've seen cities that I've never been to, being in the US for the last 28 years or no longer than that. I'm myself backwards.
All right, well, podcasts, audiobooks, or YouTube?
Ooh, I would say podcasts.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Kicks, heels, or flats?
Flats.
Dress or pants?
Pants.
Would you rather swim in the ocean or ski in the Alpines?
Can I do both?
What do you like to do in your spare time?
Gosh, I can't sit still. So I constantly do something. So, it's hard to pick something. I love to cook. I love to go out. I love my yoga and Pilates. I just became a board trustee for our yoga studio. So,
Yay, congrats.
yeah, thank you. My mind just keeps going.
Oh, that's wonderful. And what new skill have you learned during this pandemic?
Yeah, I would say that, gosh, making masks. So I made my own masks for
Oh,
my family. I was like, oh, I'm gonna use all this beautiful fabric I've collected from travel. So I made masks. That was actually interesting and fun. It really showed that I have, you think you have patience until you really have to stop and focus on something. Like I can be very patient and focused when I'm work wise, but in stitching the masks, I was like, huh, my attention span isn't as good as I thought it would be. So that was an aha moment for me.
and did you hand stitch them or did you use like a sewing machine as
No,
well?
I hand stitched everything.
Oh, wow. Okay, yes, that will really slow you down.
So it was like whoosh.
So what embarrassing thing have you done while Zooming?
Oh my goodness, embarrassing. Oh, I think I was zooming and then all of a sudden I was also multitasking on a Teams chat and I was so and I had a dual chat going with Zoom as well as Teams and I was responding to someone thinking I was responding to someone in Teams accidentally. So
Yeah, and can you share something about you that most people don't know?
let's see. I would say, and it goes back to travel. I've been to all continents.
That is so cool. Any good luck charms that you carry with you?
Oh, yes. My favorite is Lord Ganesha, and he is the god that has the elephant head. And it's a beautiful story. If you ever get a chance to read about why he has an elephant's head, it's a wonderful, wonderful story. So, Lord Ganesha, and it's a little coin that I keep in my purse.
And what are you most proud of?
That I'm really fortunate to have some amazing people that surround me, but my family is probably the most, you know, what I hold very close to my heart is my family. My parents, my sister, her husband and kids, and my husband. So we're a small group, but we just, we have our wild and crazy moments like every family does. But you know what? I talk to my parents every day. Uh,
Oh,
yeah, every single day. My dad's in the morning and my mom's at night.
that's so funny. You have your time set. That's very sweet.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna end it with our last question here is any final words?
Yeah, final words would be, you know, keep being persistent and also listen. Please listen. I know it can be hard sometimes because, you have this generational gap, and but there's a reason why our elders are our elders and why they're sharing things. But the elders are also learning from the younger generation, so it goes both ways. So if there's one thing I would say is find that elder and share with them, so it's not you're always going to them with questions, but they can learn from you as well, to help guide you through this journey, because your journey is going to go left, it's going to go right, it's never a straight line, and just be open to that, and just don't give up, be persistent.
Well said right there, Angie. I think this was such a wonderful interview. Your energy is great. And for all of you listening out there, don't give up, like what she says, pave your own path. Even if you go sideways here and there and whatnot, at least you are trajecting forward. And that's what's most important. Be true to yourself and don't give up. So with a lot of love and peace out there. Um, I hope you guys stick around for the next interview. Take care. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thanks, Pam.